Octo is pleased to bring you this Planner Unplugged series in partnership with Scottish Widows, focused on helping advisors deliver better outcomes for clients today and in the future. Hello and welcome to the latest episode of Planner Unplugged from Octo members. I'm Katie Pigden, Content Director, and as ever, I'll allow my guests to introduce themselves if that's okay. So over to you.
Hi, I'm Neela Mistry, financial life planner and the founder of Prosperity Life Planning. I created my business back in 2018, and I work with midlife professionals who feel financially stuck to organise their finances and money so that they can make really big decisions with confidence.
Lovely. So, Neela, what was your entry into this wonderful world of financial planning? So, you set up your business in 2018. What happened prior to that? How did you enter this one?
So, my journey in financial planning was accidental. You know, a lot of people say they fell into it. So, I graduated in 1992, and I don't know if you probably won't remember this, but the recession had just hit. I was fresh out of university and I did so many job applications and I couldn't find anything. So I fell into the role as a self-employed advisor for Irish Life, I think it was at the time. And at the time, it was standing at tube stations and encouraging people to talk about financial advice. And that's how we got our leads. I'd had an overdraft and I was really scared about telling my parents that I had an overdraft. So it was a time and space where it was scary. I doubted myself. I had no idea how to do this job. So I learned very quickly. I worked really hard. And I almost gave up and I thought, this is not for me. And then I met this lovely guy. I was prospecting at Waterloo Tube Station and he said yes. And then he came into our offices and I did my fact find and I found out more about him and did a second meeting once I'd got to know exactly what his objectives were. And then he signed up as a client. And that was incredible. I think that's the thing that spurred me and kept me motivated to continue doing what I was doing. Unfortunately, the company shut down and then I joined Barclays Life and that's where I became a qualified financial advisor. But life was a bit different in a bank. We were giving advice that became quite transactional. So if somebody wanted a mortgage, we gave them a mortgage. If somebody wanted a pension, that's exactly what we did. And one of the things I noticed is we just didn't have enough time to understand our client and get to know them. And that was quite frustrating. And around that time, there were a lot of colleagues who were looking to become independent and set up their own businesses. So I got inspired by that and I did the same. So I think it was in 2002, I set up as an independent financial advisor through the Sesame Network and I loved it.
Yeah.
Absolutely loved it because around that time I was getting married and I was also setting up this business and I achieved in 6 months what I'd previously done in a whole year. So it was really exciting. And I remember having a launch instead of having a leaving party. I had a launch. I hired this bar in Holborn and I invited people to come to my launch. And that's how some of my clients, which a few are still with me today, stayed with me. But life isn't without its challenges. You know, there was lots of things that happened. We've had the financial crisis. And then I was also trying to have children. I had lots of miscarriages. And then I've obviously been blessed with 2 amazing children. And it was really difficult. Life was really hard. And all I wanted to do was jack it all in and give it all up. But I knew that it was important for me to carry on because my husband was also made redundant around that time. This was the only profession I really knew and I was really good at it.
Yes.
And the thing what inspired me to keep going was I really loved working with my clients. I really loved understanding all about them and how I can help them. I guess there was a time period when I thought, okay, what is it that I want? And then I came across the Kinder Institute of Life Planning and I met George Kinder. And I guess after that, it all changed. And I found my inspiration, I found my mojo, and I thought, this is how I want to do work. And I needed to retreat and go into my own self and my journey and my life with my husband, the children, everything that I'd been through so that I could heal from from all of that, because that was really heavy. Life was heavy.
Very difficult times, lots of emotional things to deal with, the financial things to deal with. You mentioned your husband being made redundant. It's that daunting thing of, do I do this? Do I not do this?
Yeah, I know. And there's so much doubt that comes into your mind. And like with even the clients that I work with today, you just need that space, the space to uncover, well, what is it that's important to me? What do I want in my life? And what do I want it to look like? And when you're in that fog, you can't see the wood for the trees. So I went back to basics and I needed to learn how to dream again, how to visualize again, and that it was possible. And only when you're sat in the seat of having that kind of coaching or having that kind of space to talk is when growth happens. So when I embraced the kinder work, I was ready to embrace everything. I wanted a better life. So it was one of the best experiences that I went through. And that's when I realized that if I create something new, then this is how I want to do it.
I don't think I've ever heard anyone say that they've been outside tube stations trying to build up that work. I mean, my dad used to run a newsagent within a tube station, so within Fulham Broadway, and I used to tout for business in terms of putting my hand out for money for the
Yeah.
papers or magazines.
I know they made it sound really glamorous that
Yes.
you're going to do an exhibition at tube stations. But you know what? All it was, we didn't even have a stand. It was these little cards and it said financial planning and it said, which of these things are most important to you? So it was like retirement planning, inheritance tax planning, savings, or buying a house. So we just had to ask and say, my name is Neela. I work for a company called, which of these things are really important to you? And then it was about, well, it's not really professional standing at a tube station.
Yeah.
So can I take down your name and telephone number? And then you catch their eye with the pen. Can I take down your name and telephone number? And I will invite you to our offices and we can talk more about it. How does that sound? And that's how we got our clients. So we used to come back to the office and give them a call and book appointments.
How many would say yes compared to how many would say no? Because charity people in the streets trying to sort of do it, you can see obviously so many people do walk past, the odd person will stop and have that chat. In my
Yeah.
former life as a journalist, when I was training on a local newspaper, we were sent out to do what they call vox pops, go and get these videos or little clips of people or
Yeah.
bits that you could write down. And it was dreadful sometimes trying to get, sorry, would you mind? Hello, is it all right if I just ask
Yeah.
you this?
So how long ago was that? How long?
For me, so when I trained as a journalist in 2010, 2011, and then got my first job in South Wales, and was doing that. So prior to that, sometimes with work experience, you were sent out, but it was just that, "Oh, will people talk to you and
Yeah.
explain what
Well,
you're
I
doing?"
guess it was different then, wasn't it? Because that's, if you think 15 or 20 years prior to that, there were no phones as such. I think mobile phones had only just come out and the internet wasn't there, which meant that people had a bit more patience. I mean, even I get asked now to stop and I haven't got time to stop. People
No.
don't have time.
Yeah.
And if you go back 30 years, people did have time. People would actually listen to you. And there was an element of excitement because we would all come back to the office. We were a big team. There was about 20 of us and we'd come back into the office and get excited. Oh, how many leads did you get? How many did you get? So there was a healthy competition that was always there. So that kept us inspired and motivated. But we also used to look at the numbers and it is how many leads do you get? How many conversations do you have? And then how many appointments do you have? And what's the conversion rate of those appointments? And those things we still try and echo in our marketing today, don't we?
Yeah.
So I guess it was, we did used to get people to stop. And the things that we used to use were, you smile, it's eye contact. And just by smiling, people used to just look back at you and smile. So, and then like with anything, the more you do something, the more you become more confident at doing more, I suppose.
Yeah. I suppose nowadays we have the challenge as well that people don't really know about financial planning, financial advice, what that looks like. So not to say that we should all start standing outside tube
No.
stations, but there is something with that of that talking to someone, that directly engaging them in that conversation and finding out and then, okay, can we talk a little bit more about this? Because how do you go about finding clients now?
I think for me now, it's more about finding like-minded clients. So a lot of my work comes from referrals. So clients will often talk about me to their friends and their family. And I think my main clients come from that angle. I also do networking. So I will go to women's networking events and talk about financial planning in general and highlight the importance of we need to have more conversations about money,
Yes.
and that it never is about the money itself. It's always about the emotions that sit underneath money. We all have money experiences. So, yeah, so it's all about the conversations. The more conversations you have and the more we normalize it, um, the better we are going to reach people and help them think about it.
Yeah. There was a couple of things that you mentioned earlier in terms of you were afraid to tell your parents you had an overdraft. So what was your relationship with money? Because it's formed as a young age, isn't it, really? Like how we deal with that as a family, if we talk
Yeah.
about these things, there's still a bit of a taboo subject. Obviously, people like you and others trying to take that away and peel back those layers. But yeah, just interested in what your upbringing
Yeah.
like around money.
Yeah, so I was brought up in an Asian culture. So money was talked about, but in a different sense. It was deeply valued. So the messages I heard growing up was, okay, money is important, and when it takes a lot of hard work and effort to work for it. So I saw my parents working in factories, biscuit factories. My dad was a machine operator, and my mum did the same. She worked in hosieries. So I was brought up in Leicester, and so they used to get these brown envelopes at the end of every month, and or even weekly. So the messages I heard was you only buy things that are important, so essentials. So anything outside of that, so whether it was I don't know, whether it was a Smash Hits magazine or anything like that that I would have wanted growing up, I wasn't allowed to buy that. So we could only use money on things that were important, the things that we needed. So my relationship with money was, well, the money was there. It also meant that I didn't have to worry about it. My parents dealt with all the main bills and things, and everything else we were provided for. So if we needed clothes, if we needed new shoes, again, it wasn't anything extravagant. It was just what we needed. If it was school shoes or if it was just clothes, it would only be replaced if it was ripped or torn, or, we needed another one. It wasn't because, well, that's really lovely, let me buy that for you anyway. So it wasn't frivolous in any way. My family were savers. So my dad accumulated. He didn't like debt. So he would always say to me, you never borrow and you never get yourself into debt. Because when you borrow money, it's your responsibility to pay that back. If you lend any money, then the chances are that you're the one who's going to be chasing that. And the other person, it won't be as important for them to give it back to you. So my dad had very sort of strong views when it came to that. And a lot of that is to do with how he was brought up. He grew up without a father. My granny, he was brought up in India. So when he came to the UK, he was very much driven by making sure that he paid back what he owed, and that whatever money he earned, that was his to spend, but he had to spend it wisely. So I guess money also came with conditions in all of that. And so my experience itself growing up was I was really good at accumulating money because I got that from my parents. But there was also a part of me that wanted to spend, but that came with guilt.
Yeah.
So,
And the money.
we would actually say to my parents, we got that on offer, or that was half price. So it's almost like we had to justify why we bought what we bought. It was never with freedom. So now, when I think about it now, everything that I do is all about freedom and flexibility.
Yeah.
Uh,
Commission as well
yeah,
sometimes, because if we are savers or whatever relationship we have had, it is then hard to adjust
and
that
it.
thinking and realize, oh, you can do that. And it doesn't always mean that it's being frivolous, but enjoying life, I suppose, while you can as well, really.
Yeah, I found spending really hard as well, spending
Yeah.
money on myself. I'd be happy to spend money on others, but
Yeah. I
spending
get,
it on myself, I found that quite challenging. It's almost like if I spend it, will I get it wrong? After having done lots of different learnings, like I did money coaching work back in 2019. And one of the biggest messages that came through was if I accumulated wealth and it was in the bank, it also meant that my dad would be proud of me,
yeah.
that he loved me. So and if I didn't have any money, then that would mean I've disappointed him. So those emotions are attached to money that we don't necessarily realize, but it sits there. It's underneath everything.
So when you've been bringing up your children, what's been the relationship there? Because obviously every generation does things sort of different.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that not getting into debt, but it's so much easier now. There's all these things and
Yeah, I did get into debt. I did. I wouldn't say it was perfect. And the only reason I knew that I got into debt was because, again, I felt there was this relationship with my dad. And I thought that he would be really disappointed in me. But on the flip side, I always say to my children, you can have anything you want. Let's just make a plan for it. I don't want them to feel that nothing is
yeah.
possible. I always want them to feel that they can have something as long as we work out why is it that they want that? How important is it? So yeah, we chat about money a lot. We talk about it. We talk about all the negative experience that both me and my husband went through so that they can learn from that. And they both have money in the bank. Both of my kids have very different ideas around money. Millen is a bit of a hoarder. He likes to hold on to it. Layla loves spending. She enjoys spending her money. But there was a time when she actually said, I don't want to know about money. And I feel that comes from that around that time when we were struggling with difficulties, because kids pick up on those emotions. So I have a feeling that she thought that money was stressful.
Yes. And it can be, can't it? And
Yeah.
that's why either people don't talk about it or might need to then come and seek your help because it's stressful and I don't know how to deal with this.
Yeah.
I'm okay at earning it or I'm doing this, but I don't know if I'm doing the right
Yeah.
thing. You mentioned that transactional nature as well about previous roles, and other people have said that to me as well. They've either
Yeah.
been a broker and then thought, actually, I like people. I like talking to people. I like conversations. People have
Yeah.
worked at banks. You seem very much that you are a people person. You like
Yeah.
to talk and get to know them. So when it came to then setting up your business that you've got currently, how did you go about building that up and showing that to the outside world of this is what I do this?
Yeah. It wasn't, I guess it was quite challenging as well, because all of a sudden you're going to have these conversations with people about money but you're not talking about money to start with.
Yeah.
And I always believe that it's always a plan before the portfolio. So it's important to understand people, what matters to them, what's really important to them, and what is it that they care about. And it's only those qualities that once we uncover those, that we can have an idea of how we need to help them connect it with their money and how the money then supports the life that they want to live. And I think that's quite magical. There's an energy shift when that happens, because it takes the responsibility away from us as financial planners. And it's now about the client and it's about our people and saying, well, okay, so what's important to you? What matters to you? What are the things that you care about? How do you want your life to look and feel? Because those are the kind of qualities that will direct where their money goes, and not the other way around. So I always knew that when I set up this business that, I wanted to do things differently. And that's what makes my business unique and different. And it allows people to feel a bit more relaxed and think, actually, this person cares about me. And it's not just what I've got in my investment and how much money that they're going to make from me. So everyone comes with different money stories in the background, but it's just gently giving them space to talk. Life is so busy these days. Most people don't even have time to sit down and have a cup of coffee in peace without thinking about what they've got to do next. But the moment, somebody steps into this space, it's their time. This is about helping them to stop and just think about themselves. And I think that's quite precious.
And now for a few words from our content partner, Scottish Widows.
Making it easier for advisors, Scottish Widows brings market expertise, dedicated distribution support, and practical insights on the topics that matter, from consumer duty to the protection gap. You'll find advisor-ready tools, explainer content, protection insights, and regular thought leadership, alongside a team that can help with cases big and small. For more information about Scottish Widows and the support it provides to advice firms, speak to our business development team by emailing protectsales@lloydsbanking.com.
I would imagine a lot of the time they learn something about themselves in those
Mm,
meetings with you as well, because you said if we don't have the time, we're busy doing something, there's always something that's got our attention. We can't stop and talk to the person outside the tube station as we once would have
no,
got somewhere that we need to be. We've always got something that we need to do.
yeah, we're always in preparation for the next thing.
These things never quite make it to the top of the to-do list. So if someone has managed to get as far as getting in front of you, that's probably quite a, right, okay, I've taken the first step and now see how that goes. And I would imagine a lot of people are quite surprised by how some of those conversations go, that money doesn't come up straight away, that
No.
finding out about them.
No, I know, and it is incredible because sometimes I sit there and I'm bewildered myself. I'm thinking, what am I actually doing for these people, and how? Because a span of 30 years you've been doing this, and you think, well, what difference have I made? And it's only when I did a client event last year. It was in the summer, and it was one of my favorite moments. Initially, I was scared. I was worried about my clients are going to meet each other. So what will that bring up? But it was incredible because I had 4 clients who were quite up for speaking, and they wanted to talk about their transformation. So I had a range of clients, the clients who had worked with me for 30 years, clients that had worked with me for 10 years, 4 years, and then even my newest client who'd only worked with me for 12 months.
Oh,
So it
wow.
was a really lovely range. And just hearing them talk about their journey, the transformations that they'd experienced, the impact the work that we did had on them, I was blown away. I was
Yeah.
blown away. And
I
that's
remember
when I
seeing your post
realized that
on LinkedIn
this
about
is,
it.
yeah, this is powerful stuff. This is, if we're having this impact on these people, imagine that ripple effect. You're having then that same impact on their kids and the people that they're connected to. So when we think about how insignificant and how tiny we are in this world, the number of people that are in this world today, but it's the work that we do that has the biggest significance.
And I'm sure you do make a massive difference to lots of people's lives. But how did that come about that you thought, oh, actually, I want to bring some of my clients together?
I think it was well, I go to a lot of women's networking events, and I myself I attended about 2 or 3 summer soirees that where I've invested in other people. So I've invested in personal development coaching, and I'm a bit of a personal development junkie. So I do love working in masterminds and with other female groups. And I'm thinking, if they can do this, then I can do this. And it just sparked an idea. And then I had a coffee with Kate from Timeline.
Yep.
And because we're not that far from each other, we met up for a coffee. And I said, I had this thought while I was in the shower this morning, and I'd really like to do an event that,
Most of the best thoughts come to your mind,
I
don't they?
know. I remember it really well. It was the 8th of April last year, and and then I met Kate for a coffee. And I said, this is what I'd really love to do. I'd really love to create something that brought all my clients together, and I want to celebrate them. So, and she goes, let's make that happen. And it was great because she just helped me direct what I wanted to do and how I wanted to do it. And last summer, the 17th of July, it all came together. And it was fantastic. It was brilliant. It was one of my proudest moments,
So is
definitely.
this going to be repeated? Are you going to do this again?
Yeah, I'm thinking of doing something this year. I'm just collating all the ideas at the moment. So I'm asking my clients what they would like to do. And yeah, definitely another soiree will be happening
Excellent.
this year.
That referral piece that you mentioned though, that's so important with how people are building their business, that word of mouth from someone else. Because if we then trust that person, oh my,
Yeah.
this great financial advice and this planning, and it's really changed my life. That must be remarkable when someone then approaches you and you think, oh, that's because of this person.
Yeah. Yeah. So I've already had 2 lovely, lovely client referrals this year already. And again, these are from clients that were at my event. And you then get to work with people who are very similar, and they know that it's worked for somebody and it's going to work again. So I've just finished working with 2 lovely clients, and something that they thought was like 3 years away is happening now.
Right. Okay.
They would have working with this lovely couple called Gareth and Janet, and Gareth is already retired. Janet thought that it's going to be at least another 3 or 4 years before she retires. And once we'd organized everything and did all the work and gave them space to think about, well, why does she want to have it right now? And as it happens, her parents are in their 80s. They live up in Yorkshire and they're in South London. And all she wanted to do was be able to spend more time with her husband and to see her parents. And again, how she was brought up was community, spending time with people and your family. And she saw her dad do that. And she felt sad that she couldn't have that same freedom herself and to give back to her dad time that he'd given to her. And that she transitioned into part-time in January. And come May, she's going into full retirement, which means that she can spend more time with her dad.
Oh, lovely.
And that just fills you up, because it's about helping people move forward, not just in their financial life, but in their personal lives. And that's what I believe at the heart of everything that I do. I have this belief that everyone deserves to live a life fulfilled before they leave this earth. So whether that's a 10-minute conversation with me or a 2-hour planning session, I always have this hope that they leave feeling seen, like supported, and that anything's possible.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh, yeah. So how do you go about some of the challenges of running a business then? Because like you said, it's not easy. You're doing
No, it's
it.
bloody hard.
Yeah, yeah. Are you on your own completely? What's your setup?
Yeah, so my setup is I'm on my own and I outsource my power planning. One of the biggest challenges that I have is my administration. I think that's been the bane of my business, but it's something that I'm working on. So I've been speaking to a few people, and I recently did 6-week container with the Financial Planning Club, which is
Okay.
with Lewis and Lee
Yeah.
and Manda and the team. And that was actually brilliant. I loved that. So it brought back the focus in where I want to give attention to. And it's a bit like working with your clients. When we're working with our clients, it's helping them make sense of everything that they've got, clarifying what matters, and then understanding gently what needs attention. And we need to do that as business owners. So since doing that 6-week container, I put an hour every week. I have my own CEO hour, and I focus on the one thing that needs attention in my business, and I try and move that forward. So I am looking for some administration support, and I'm looking to work out how I can be more efficient in my operational side of the business. So yeah, so I've got my feelers out, and I'm speaking to a few people already to help me bring that part together. But it isn't easy.
I think
Yeah.
the son went off to university. Was he helping out with a few things? Did he come
Yeah,
up
he
with?
did. He was brilliant. And he messaged him yesterday saying, I really miss you. Yeah, so I'm also trying to find a way of how can I hand work to him so that he can actually continue doing that in his spare time as well.
Yeah.
But when you're working as a sole planner, it's important to have a sense of community. So people that you can bounce ideas off and be connected. So hence the reason for going to events, whether that's Fundament Live or Next Gen. There are lots of events that we can go to. And my reasons for going to those is to learn, connect, and know that I'm not alone in this space anymore.
Yeah,
Because it used to be
we
really
bumped into
lonely.
each other at a few of them, and at the Verve
Yeah,
as well, where you won an award.
I
So
know. Best
congratulations.
client outcomes.
There we go. See, best client outcomes. So what did you have to do to enter that? What was the process for that?
So I love that one because it was more about my client experiences and going through a case study from the start of how the client was at the beginning to the impact that it had on their life. Working through a live case study really helped that application. It also made me look at my business, the things that I was finding challenging. It helped me understand how I've grown over the years, and it gave me more belief in my business as well. So the application process was actually quite therapeutic in itself.
Yeah.
And then the second stage was having interviews. So there was a panel of 5 people and they asked me lots of questions about my business and my application process. And yeah, I really enjoyed that. That meant that we were being judged based on their experience of us. So they got to know us. So I really loved the whole process for the Verve Awards. So when I did win, I felt quite proud. I thought, yes, I deserve this. I deserve this award and to be here amongst such incredible financial planners and businesses who are far bigger than me as well.
Yeah. I was speaking to someone recently about Imposter syndrome. Has that ever crept in for you?
Always. Always, always. It always comes up, not feeling good enough, or, there are so many amazing financial planners out there. Why me? And I think it just comes down to self-belief and being able to grow, push yourself out of your comfort zone. So this year is all about visibility for me. And I'm not doing it for visibility for other people to see me. I feel this is more for myself. This
Yeah.
is more, again, another stage of my personal growth. Because we're all evolving all the time. We're working on our limiting beliefs. They don't just go away in an instant. When something big comes up, it comes back. So yeah. So yesterday I had a great day. I went on a videoing workshop to have small clips made about the work that I do and how I can articulate my work when I'm networking or when I'm speaking to people. So I've done two visibility workshops already this year. So that's quite exciting.
And you seem to be pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone quite a lot. Obviously, things like this, it's never
Yeah.
easy, right? You did a mic drop event
Event,
recently.
yes. So I did a 5-minute stint on stage. It is one of my dreams. I would love to do a keynote.
I'm sure some of the conferences will be snapping you up. So careful what you wish for.
I know. Yeah, it's all leading to something bigger because as I said, it comes from my message that I love seeing people happy. And if I even come across somebody who's having a sad day or a difficult day, I want them, even by just having a 5-minute chat, I want them to feel inspired and motivated. And I had two financial coaching calls before our session here today. And I always ask a question at the end of our call. And I always say, how are you feeling at the start of the meeting? Give me 2 words that describe that. And how do you feel now after 30 minutes or 45 minutes? And funnily, both of them actually said, feel really inspired and motivated. I know exactly what I want to do next. And that, to me, I feel my job's done. I feel that if I've left them feeling better than they were 45 minutes ago, how amazing is that?
Absolutely. Well, I didn't ask it at the start, but how are you feeling at the start and how are you now?
Always with any of these things. And I think it's my own stories that come up. I always feel anxious. I feel a bit nervous. I always feel, what am I going to say? Am I going to slip up? Is it going to go smoothly? And now I would say that we're just in a flow of a conversation.
Exactly. That's what I sort of
Yeah.
hope for with these things. For me, it's fascinating. Everyone's got a story to tell as to how they got into this profession. We want to encourage more people to know that it's a service that you can have, but also as a career choice as well. I think we can all present to the outside world that everything looks lovely and it's wonderful. And we're always comparing
It's
each
rosy.
other. And that's when you do start thinking, oh, maybe I'm not doing that as well as I'd like to. And that external recognition is really important for your clients to be referring you to other
Mm,
people, you to be winning those awards for those client outcomes and
yeah.
how their journeys have improved. And sometimes we do need to take a step back and go, yeah, I've done pretty well. I've worked
Yeah,
hard.
it's pretty awesome.
It hasn't been easy, but I've done a fantastic job. And there's still things I'm working on. There's still things I'm trying to improve. There's areas of my business I want to focus on.
Yeah.
But ultimately, you're wanting to help other people. You mentioned the Kinder Institute. So for anyone that doesn't really know about that or what that entails, do you want to give us a little bit of a snapshot of that?
What Kinder does is allows you to enhance or enrich the experience that you have already. So you might have lots of technical experience, you might be really well qualified, and you've got everything that you need to run a successful practice. And I'm not just talking about Kinder, it could be any other financial coaching course or development course that you think about doing or money coaching course. But what it allows you to do is sit in the space that your clients are going to sit in. And it allows you to be uncomfortable. It allows you to think about what you want in your life and why. So with Kinder, they split it into a 2-day course. And the 2-day course is the 7 days to money maturity. And that's all about money, your relationships, and what those old habits are and how they frame your life going forward. So the 2-day course is really enlightening. And then you also have an introduction to the evoke method that Kinder teach. And then the second part of that is the 5-day, which is a fully immersive experience, which is incredible, because that's where you grow as your own person, and you also create your own life plan, and you work with somebody, and you work with a whole group. So, and I feel that that's shaped how I do all my work. And I knew that this is the only way that I wanted to work. It wasn't like, oh, I'm going to do a bit of coaching and then I'm going to do my financial planning. I feel that it just doesn't fit like that. So I think what Kinder allowed me to see was it is the whole process. It's a holistic process. It's about the person. It's about what matters to them, what's important to them, and what lights them up. And then you can start talking about money and think, okay, what is the current landscape? What does it look like? What does it feel like? Is it aligned? Is there a connection? And then the last part, which is the financial advice hat that we sort of put on, is, okay, so we now know what the issues are, what the problems are, what the great things are in your life. We know what your money's doing for you, but we also need to understand how we craft that money to deliver the life that you want. And that final piece is the transactional piece. So all of a sudden we have a model. We help clients prepare, we then plan, and then we help them prosper. And that's how I work with my clients. Everyone will be different, but everyone will find some snippets of what will enrich their working life now. And I think the biggest thing Kinder taught me is to listen.
Yeah.
I think that's one of my biggest learnings, just to listen, to give people space. And it doesn't need to be uncomfortable, because once people have this space, you're allowing them to dream.
Yeah.
And it's only when we dream that our wishes come true.
So when someone comes to you, initially, sometimes is it because they feel that they've got a problem? I want to make sense of this pension. I don't know how to deal with things. And then you delve into that a little bit more.
Yeah, so absolutely. So so my new client that I'm just working with, we start next week. A lot of people come to me when they're normally around midlife. And then they come to me because they've built up savings, investments. They might have pensions. They have property. They have everything. But they're still unsure how it fits into that big picture. They don't know how they're going to use all of these. And what happens is, when you don't know, you get stuck. This gentleman that I'm going to be working with, he says, we were thinking of doing our driveway. And that was like 2 years ago. And we were quoted £20,000 to do this driveway. But that feeling of whether you do that or not, or whether you take that step, they just didn't know. So they just didn't do anything. So we end up not doing anything. And then we procrastinate. And then we keep money there safe, because it might be linked to security and safety, like we talked about earlier. That was my money story. But so many people have different stories that make them behave the way they do with their money. When they have that clarity, we just then start talking about it. And all it is just getting them to talk about themselves and what's really important to you. So the questions I always start with was, okay, so tell me about what's important to you. What do you care about? And then I just let them talk. And then it might be that they'll talk about, well, money, my financial security is really important to me. So tell me more. What does that really mean for you? For you, what does security mean? Tell me more about that. And then it's, how does that make you feel about yourself? So it's all about that, delving deeper and really understanding how that person is feeling emotionally.
Yeah.
And then what I find is that the more you delve deeper, you uncover what the client's values are. Because it's our values that drive it can help craft what our goals are. Goals are just the thing that motivates you, inspires you. So so the gentleman I spoke to this morning, he says, well, I think it was around ease. Financial security was all about ease. So if he was then going to think about buying a property, a rental property, that was one of his goals, he was saying. But then he's asking himself, well, is that going to be more stressful for me? Do I have to manage it? Am I going to have the flexibility to travel? Or do I need to then do I have to do more work to it? So then it's about, well, okay, is that then aligned to the way you want to feel about money? Yes or no? Yet to explore. However, these are the kind of conversations you can be having that then help them make the decision a lot easier. Because once you know what you want and you become really clear, the next step becomes easier. And then clients experience this energy shift. And once the energy is there, it will then inspire them to take action. And
Yeah.
that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to help our clients move forward. And in order to move forward, they need energy. Energy will move them forward. So before they move forward, you need to help them create this energy and lift them up.
Years ago, when I was in a job interview for a title called the caterer, so it was hospitality and
Okay.
finding out, I think I was asked by the interviewers, if money were no object, what restaurant would you eat in? And I was like, yeah, I suddenly thought I probably don't know a lot of the ones that they might want me to say, and that panicked because you know what you know
Yeah.
sometimes, and but money is an object, and you have a certain amount, so yes, it's great to think or aspire to that. But I believe you asked your clients a similar question in terms of, if money was no object, what would your life look like?
Yeah. Yeah, because I think that the question isn't about what you want, it's about giving clients space to just dream.
Yeah,
And that's all it is. It's not about, oh, okay, so if I had all the money in the world, if money and time were no object, it's about how would you live your life and what are the kind of things that you would do. So all it's doing is opening up the space and it's allowing them to dream. And that's where the Kinder 3 questions come from. A lot of people think, oh, it's about everything that you want and it's all about materialism, but it's not. It's just giving space to expand your mind into thinking big. And the moment you do that, then that's when the second question comes in. The second question is, okay, well, if I'm your GP, I'm your doctor, and I'm going to say, symptom wise, you're not going to feel a thing, but you know that you're only going to have 5 years left. So the moment you help expand their dream, but that second question, what it does is allows you to think about the things that are really essential.
that
So
time
it just,
element becomes so important to us all as well, doesn't it?
yeah, of course it does. It's time, isn't it? We think we have time.
we,
And
we
that's
put
when it makes you sort of start to think, well, okay, well, I haven't got a lot of time. So which of the things that I've just talked about are really important to me? And it
Yeah,
helps. I guess it's just a framework, isn't it? We all work to a framework. We've had structures and frameworks and timetables since the day we were born. Our life is always in preparation for something. But what we want is a bit of movement. We want a bit of leeway. We want a bit of freedom to have within that framework. And it's okay to have a framework. There's nothing wrong with that. Doesn't mean anything's bad or there's anything wrong, because a framework or a structure gives us a bit of security and a bit of control, right?
absolutely.
And then we've got movement within
Yeah.
that. And that's all we're doing when we're
Your
working
own
with people.
story, that you obviously have achieved a lot. We've reflected on a lot of the things that you have done. This more than you ever hoped for? Are there other things that you're still wanting to do within your business?
Yeah, I think my biggest dream, I never had a dream as such. I was always a bit of an escape artist. I thought that I just wanted to go and travel and live on a beach somewhere, and I'd have a cafe bar and I would paint all day and I would sell my paintings. That was my dream when I was little. But so when I think about that dream, it's all about freedom and flexibility. I think that was a key thing for me. And especially having grown up in such a constrained environment, we had to be quiet. You had to be well mannered and don't talk more than you need to. Even if we sat at the dinner table, my dad wouldn't let us talk that much. And for me, having a life that's got freedom, flexibility, connections, conversations, a community of people, they're my values. That's what I live by. So I think for me, it's never been about material stuff. It's what I have right now gives me that freedom and flexibility. I have open conversations with my children. I have never had to apologize since setting up Prosperity Life Planning. I've never felt that I had to apologize for being there for my children. I was never very good at being told what to do. So I knew I would really struggle in a corporate environment. So this system works for me. I have my own business. I can see my kids when I want, especially when they were at school. I was able to pick them up, drop them off, take them to their clubs and activities, and I was able to work the hours that I wanted to work. That wasn't easy. It's also about boundary. I would worry about what my clients would think. So there was lots of things that evolved, like having my own calendar so that I only had certain days that I would see my clients, and I have buffer days where I can do all my admin and my works. I think you learn with time what that freedom is for me in my business and in my life.
Did you come up with the name of your business yourself, or did you get help in that sense?
No, I came up with it myself. And who inspired me? I think Tina Weeks inspired me. Her business
Yeah.
is Serenity. And one of the conversations we had years ago was maybe there was a way that we could work together. And I actually remember saying to her well, I want what you've got. You've got serenity and I want to create prosperity. So
And there it is.
yeah, that's where it was. So, and I feel that the time I needed to take responsibility for myself. I didn't want to jump into the frying pan into the fire because I had quite a difficult experience with another firm that I did work with. And I wanted to learn and grow for myself. And I felt that I couldn't do that with just going into another firm. I knew I needed to do this. This is what's brought me to where I am today.
Yeah. Make your own mistakes along the way and learn from them, I suppose, as well,
Yeah,
really.
absolutely. And again, it's all about freedom and flexibility and being able to do things on your terms. But I know I'm not alone. There is a huge community. I've got the Kinder community. I've got all the community, within the financial planning world. We make our friends, and even the personal development courses that I've done. I've met people, so that we're not alone.
No, I was going to ask, because does it sometimes feel a bit isolating? Because obviously you're running your own business, so you've got those challenges, but it does
Yeah.
a collaborative profession that there's a lot of people, they will have made some mistakes along the way as well. You can learn from them, you can help each other
Yeah,
out.
it's really important to have a handful of like-minded colleagues, especially if you're running a business on your own. And so I run a very small group, an accountability circle. I only created it less than a year ago. And it's where a couple of us advisors, we get together, we have a bit of a moan, we put the world to rights. But it's also important that if any one of us is struggling, that we can support each other out of it. And
Yeah.
that's really important. And I wanted to continue that. So that's really important in the work that we do as well, to just help each other, because again, that's the ripple effect, isn't it? We all have our own stuff. And who do we talk to about our own stuff? So it's really important to clear those fog that we have. We all have good days and we all have bad days, and we need to vent and we need to talk about it, because when we're in with our clients, we want to be in the best possible mind space and position.
What do you think are some of the biggest challenges facing the profession? So internally, you mentioned that admin side of things and trying to do that. Are there things that worry you about what's happening, things in the world, anything like that in terms of running a business, or things that you might be hearing from other advisors as well? Is there like the common thing of, oh, that's a bit of a problem for me as well?
There's lots of things, isn't it? Isn't
Yeah.
there? There's everything from tech with what's happening in the economy, what's happening in the world. And I find that we can't control all of that. Whatever's happening is happening. We give it attention and we can have a look at how it impacts us in our life. But ultimately, I think that we need to focus on what we can do.
Yeah. What you are in control of.
Yeah. So I think it's with everything. It's whether, as I said, whether it's AI or technology, or whether there's a bigger problem in the world, which there are, and we haven't got time to talk about all of those. But I think it's important to think, okay, well, we haven't got control over that. What can we do? What is it that we can do and that, again, that comes down to what's important to us, what matters to us. And then the things that we do will be related and when we're aligned.
For anyone looking to enter this profession, if they've hopefully heard about it enough and they're considering it, is there any advice you would give to them, knowing what you know now of running your business?
Yeah. I think it's quite challenging setting up as a directly authorized firm nowadays. And what I'm learning and what I'm enjoying that is happening is there are firms out there that are now creating lots of graduate programs and lots of communities where, advisors can join. So my advice would be to join communities like Plan X. I know that, for example, Carla Brown, who's the president of the PFS, they've got a really great graduate program. So for new entrants, the younger generation who are looking to come into the financial planning profession, I would look at those communities that are offering a really great path towards planning as well. joining the communities is really important because you're going to get lots of guidance along the way. Do it on your own is going to be really challenging. It's going to be really
Yeah.
hard. Don't do it.
And ask for help, I suppose, if you need it as well,
Yes,
because
that's the key. You've got to ask for help, and that's the best way you're going to go far.
yeah, I'm hoping eventually we'll get to a stage where more people say they intended to come into this profession rather than stumbled or fell into it, like so many of us do
Yeah.
end up saying.
I think it's changing, isn't it? It is evolving. There are so many more opportunities out there. I mean, if there was a community like Plan X or Next Gen at that time, it would have been incredible. It was so lonely when I first came into the profession, and then I worked at Barclays, and then obviously we had a community of teams of people within that. But when I went self-employed thereafter, unless we went to like money marketing conferences, there weren't as many conferences like there are now, or even the way the way they're structured now. It's so different. It's not about providers anymore. It's bringing in people that inspire and motivate. That's changed in itself.
Going to those events, I know you're very keen to learn and to develop, but is there a worry sometimes of taking that time out of your business as well? Because you want to look to the future and you want to try and figure out what that looks like. Ultimately, you need to be doing the day-to-day stuff as well. And there's so many events out there now. It has really expanded from when it would have been one or two conferences, maybe. Do you ever feel anxious or worried about that? Or is it just, no, this is really going to benefit me and my development, and it's important to get out there and see people?
Yeah, no, I think that evolves in itself. When I first set up Prosperity Life Planning, it was important to run a profitable business. And so you have to look at your numbers as well, because then some of the events are free, some of the events are paid for. So you have to make an intentional decision. Why are you going to these events? How will it enrich your business? And I think it's important to have an intention and the outcome that you want. So I always go to the events thinking, well, what do I want to get from this? Who do I want to meet and who do I want to speak to? So if you make it intentional, then it's not about how much time you take out. That's not going to be an issue. I used to worry about these things, and I used to make a conscious decision that I can't afford this right now, and I will speak to people as and when. And then once I was able to, so now I don't worry about that side so much. I can take time out of my business and not worry about whether I can afford it or not. And I think now there's so much choice out there. You have to be picky and choosy about how this is going to help your business, because we are spending we're investing time to go to these things, and you don't just want to go to anything. It's the things that your business needs. So I think, make it intentional.
I think that must have been a milestone as well, mustn't it? That you thought, I can afford to go to these ones I want to now, that, I can be selective. I don't have to go to
Absolutely.
if I want to, I will, and if it's the right for me.
It comes back to choice and flexibility. And and this shows how far, these are all little measures of how far your business has come, or how successful you are, because success isn't just about the money. It's about what does your business enable you to do in your life.
Yeah, and that looks different for everyone as well, doesn't it? What does success look like to you? Or if you were starting again now, what would you do differently? Everyone's got a different answer for that. I found this fascinating. Thank you so much. As we're coming to an
You're
end,
welcome.
personal money rule that you live by, knowing what you've said to me and what your experience was initially, is there something that that I live by this?
Yeah, I always say you can have anything you want, just make a plan for it.
Yeah, there we go then. Oh, well, thank you so much. I've really appreciated it. Really great insight.
Thank you.
And I hope you feel less anxious than you did at the beginning.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's been brilliant. Thank you.
Expertise that helps make advice easier. Distribution support, advisor tools, and thought leadership from Scottish Widows. For more information about Scottish Widows and the support it provides to advice firms, speak to our business development team by emailing protectsales@lloydsbanking.com.